Hey guys, I'm Aaron, and this is SketchUp for iPad Square One, where we take a look at the fundamentals of using SketchUp for iPad. Today, we're going to dive into the differences between SketchUp Pro and SketchUp for iPad. So, when we decided to release SketchUp onto a brand new platform like iPad, we of course had to make some changes. In the past, everything we've released has depended upon you pretty much using a mouse and a keyboard. Some people use touchpads or a 2-button mouse or a 1-button mouse. But generally speaking, whether it was Pro on the desktop or it was web online, we could depend on a keyboard being there and some sort of a mouse device. With iPad, we couldn't make that assumption. We had to assume that there's a possibility somebody would want to use this out in the field or on the go with just their iPad in their finger. For that reason, there's a lot of differences between how SketchUp works on iPad from how it works on Pro, and I just want to cover some of the basics of what those are. And this video is intended for people who are currently SketchUp Pro users who want to dive into using the iPad, just to give you an idea of what you're going to run into. Let's hop in. Okay, so a lot of the screen looks very similar, right? We have a very similar look. We have Sal there, of course, rather than Niraj, which we have in Pro. But generally speaking, there's the axis, there's the background, the fading off into the sky at the end. All that stuff looks very similar. The toolbars, of course, look very different. If you're on a Windows machine, you're probably used to the tab bars on the left that nest and automatically pop out. One of the big differences, of course, with what we see on here for the windows on the right is that they're not editable the way they are on the tab bar in Windows. They also can't be moved. I can't create multiples. If you're used to seeing them on the Mac, very similar, but they can't be moved. Same thing, I can't drag these and move them over. I can't put them on a different monitor. They are connected right here to the right side of the screen. That's my only option. If you've been using web, you may recognize some of these icons. They are the same icons, or very similar icons to what we use in the web version, but if you're used to seeing them on Pro only, it may take a little bit of getting used to, and that's where you may want to tap on here and swipe to the right to get the titles up. If you're used to that, that might help the transition. There is no main menu at the top, of course. That's very similar to what we see in the web version. In Pro, you're used to all the pull downs, that sort of thing. None of that's there. We don't have that menu. Everything pretty much is either in this toolbar at the top where I have the little home icon, undo, redo, or the toolbar at the left. One of the biggest changes that I experienced with using SketchUp on the iPad was not having the keyboard here. So you can use an external keyboard, a Bluetooth keyboard, and that helps with some of the transitional pain from Pro to iPad. But there are tools in place to actually eliminate the need for a keyboard, and they're very, very intuitive, very, very easy to use, but it is very different. So the biggest thing, of course, is the modifiers. I don't have the ability to hold down Shift or Control or tap the arrow keys, anything like that as I'm doing input. Instead, what I see is the little secondary toolbar. So if I go into a tool like, let's go into rectangle. When I click on rectangle, the modifiers I might use when I'm inputting are inference related. So I might hit the up, down, left, right arrow keys to inference. Since I don't have that, the flyout here says, okay, where I would come in here and snap to whatever plane I was on. If I wanted to force to snap to a specific plane, I could hit that, and then I'm always doing that because I choose that inference from the flyout toolbar. And those are different from each different command you choose. So the lasso select has the add and remove modifiers that I can turn on there rather than, inferencing wouldn't make sense for select. So not the same for each one. Another big one is, of course, the pop-up for text or for numbers or input. So in here, when I start a circle, what I would normally do on Pro is just immediately after I hit the circle command, type how many sides I want, and I'd be done. In this case, as soon as I hit circle, I'll go into it again, a little pop-up comes up asking me for the number of sides, and I can tap there and I can say, oh, I want this to just be 12, and enter. And now I'm inputting a 12-sided circle. The other thing, so if I click here, drag that out, see this little boxes following, it's chasing me around, chasing my cursor. Once I release, I can click into that, and just like I would do with the dimensions toolbar, or the dimensions input tool, I could just type in, I want this to be 6 foot, enter, and then it adds that. And it doesn't go away until I leave, so it's actually a reminder that, oh, I could come back in here and I could change that to 8 foot and hit enter. So the functionality is almost exactly the same as Pro. How you get to that screen is a little bit different. So one of the most commonly used keys, or one of the spots I use keys on the keyboard most often, of course, is inferencing. So the way inferencing works here is with these things. So this is a fundamental change to mindset when using SketchUp for iPad. That being that I'm going to tell it beforehand what kind of line I want to draw. If I want to draw a line straight up in Pro, I would click my start point, then tap up, and then move my mouse. In this case, I'm going to say I want to draw a line straight up, so I'm going to pick my Z lock, and now I can pick my from point and my to point, and it locks it there. The difference being primarily that, tell it what you want to do beforehand, and then go click to draw. So that was a pretty high-level list, but if you're currently using Pro, at least this was my experience moving over, is a lot of it, everything was there that I expected. It just wasn't always where I wanted it to be because I wanted to tap a key or something like that, like I would in Pro. But once you get used to it, it's a pretty intuitive workflow to go through and tap your modifiers in your secondary toolbar rather than tapping a key on the keyboard. It's just a matter of remembering that the workflow is a little bit different. But one of the things that iPad does, which is really cool, is it does serve you up the on-screen controls you need as you enter a command. So inferencing isn't always on the screen. It only shows up when you're in a command that needs inferencing. The measurements box isn't always on the screen. It shows up anytime SketchUp expects a measurement from you. So it's nice because it keeps the screen from getting cluttered. It's a very clean looking user interface. But if you're used to Pro where you always have that stuff there, it can be a little bit, you can be a little nervous. It's okay. Transition is hard sometimes, but it's there. You just have to learn to use it. And I think once you do, you'll get used to it and really see that it's very quick and easy to input on SketchUp for iPad. If you like that video, go ahead and click like down below. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. We create several videos each and every week and you'll be notified of all of them if you subscribe. Most importantly though, leave us a comment down below. Have you made the transition from Pro to SketchUp for iPad? What do you think so far? Love to hear your comments. We like making these videos a lot. We like them even more when they're showing something you want to see. Thank you.